Good afternoon and welcome to Lunchtime Coaching, where we add value to people's lives. My name is Kevin Britz and I'm an executive coach and international leadership facilitator and host to the Lunchtime series happening on eBiz Radio at 12 every afternoon. Today we're chatting to transformational coach Raeesa Mohammed. Welcome to Lunchtime Coaching, Raeesa. How are you?
I'm very well, Kevin. How are you?
Cool.
Thanks for having me on your platform.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for joining us today. I'm good. I'm glad that summer's really on its way. I'm really happy about that. And yeah, I'm enjoying getting back to a little bit of normal. But for me, it's considering the whole transformation about what's happened in 2020, and how we're doing that more effectively.
I think there isn't anyone who hasn't been affected, but it's really good to see people tentatively taking a step outdoors and try to get back to normal. But of course, still very mindful of having to follow, to take precautions.
Absolutely, yeah. So tell us more about you, right? Raeesa, I know that you do transformational life coaching and there's a bit of a story behind that. Don't you want to sort of give us an idea of what transformational life coaching is? And then we're going to, head into how you sort of came about becoming a coach.
Okay, thanks. Yeah. So, most people do know what a life coach is, but when you say transformational life coach, then they say, well, what is that? And I think the term is pretty self-explanatory because what I do and all transformational coaches do is literally transform people's lives. And when they come to us and when they leave us, they actually see that happening to them. And it's quite mind-blowing. So I guide people really to find out the power within themselves to change their own lives because we all have that power within us. We just need to be made aware of it. So I help people achieve their goals. I help people heal. I help people become the best version of themselves. And just learn to create the life and the reality that they choose to have.
Yeah. Absolutely. And so, how did you come about that? Because I know, from a coaching perspective, and we all have our story on how we eventually get there. How did you sort of, because your background, you come from a very extensive background in entertainment and media, and please tell us that story. So, I mean, you've gone from having this executive background and eventually you kind of pull all that together and sort of decided to help people. Tell us more about that.
So I've been in the broadcasting industry for over 30 years. And I started on television and then I went and I worked in London, I worked in India, came back, worked here as well, radio and TV. And then I did a film as well. And I had no thoughts of becoming a life coach. I think 20 years ago or so, 20 to 30 years ago, I didn't even know what that was really. So it was really something that happened to me. It was a calling. It wasn't I decided one day, okay, I want to be a life coach. No. So I was very happy, very successful in my broadcasting career. And then suddenly life just kind of gave me a bit of a wake-up call. And in 2013, I was diagnosed with cancer. And it was devastating, as you can imagine, for anyone getting that diagnosis. And I had always prided myself on being very health conscious, of watching what I ate and exercising. So, and it was like, what? How did this happen to me? And it was really, it was kind of meant to happen that a friend of mine gave me Louise Hay's book, You Can Heal Your Life, at that precise moment. And I read it and it changed my life because what Louise says is that every single disease on the planet is linked to what is going on inside of you with regard to your emotions. And this was very, very new to me. I hadn't even heard of that before. And I started reading it. I was so interested. It was so awe-inspiring. I started reading this book and just delved more and more into it. And then I realized, wow, it's not about just taking care of your physical health. It's so much more than that. Then I started really indulging in a lot of self-reflection, and doing inner work. And after reading Louise's book, I started researching and doing more and reading more and more. And then I went online. And then this is literally what led me to life coaching, looking at alternative healing and natural healing, and it led me to life coaching. And then I did this coaching course, which was brilliant, and it helped me so much. And that's when I decided, wow, this is so amazing. It was so life-changing. I don't want to just keep this to myself. I want to share it with as many people as possible. So I want to become a life coach, and I want to practice. And it was really one of the best things that I've ever done, because just being able to watch people grow and heal and transform is one of the most rewarding things that you can ever experience.
Yeah, it's so interesting that you mentioned that, and I don't know if you could just touch a little bit more on it. But I think a lot of people kind of look at their lives and what's happening in their world very often from a very practical perspective on how they see what they physically see with their two eyes, right? And they kind of go, okay, well, this is what's showing up. This is what it means. But from a coaching perspective, from Louise Hay's perspective on the emotional connection that we have to trauma, and things that may have happened, and how those things and the energy of that, and also very often we don't even realize that we're carrying that within our bodies. Don't you just want to share a little bit more insight from where you come from as well? Because I think it's such a necessary topic that people often, they kind of avoid, and they kind of go, oh, this is airy fairy, and they'll use those words, right? This is airy fairy, and yet we're made up of emotion. We're made of we live by these emotions.
I was going to use that term airy fairy because unfortunately that has been the prevailing thinking out there, right? And we, as growing up, we are not taught to look beyond the physical. It's all about the physical. And most people, and I think this should be taught in schools, that there's a whole other realm out there. We have never been taught about the power of emotions. We've never been taught about the power of belief. We've never even been taught about the power of energy. I mean, people say, what's that? That's really airy fairy. But just this notion that we are all made up of energy, and that we are all connected, and that we are all vibrating, and that vibration has such energy, such power, depending on your frequency, and the power to literally shift stuff, to shift your whole life into something else. And once you understand that, you then know what you're working with, and then you know what you can do in order to change your life. And emotions and thoughts even, are so powerful. We are never taught that. And even, as something as simple as disease, you go to a doctor. It's all physical. He or she gives you a physical checkup, and that's it. They don't tell you, right now, let's talk about your emotions. If you want to do that, you need to go to a psychologist or psychiatrist, and that comes, unfortunately, with its own stigmas, which I'm glad slowly are getting eroded. But what really needs to happen, and I think that the world, and this is quite a statement, but I'm not exaggerating, I think the world will be a much better place if the realm of energy and emotions and spirituality, that's also so important, if that is brought more into mainstream. I think it's so vital that happens.
Yeah, and I think that's also the spike in people wanting, and coaching as an industry is, I think it's now the second most sought after industry in the world, and it's $1 billion kind of industry, and I think that's what people are sort of starting to understand about it, and also starting to realize that, I have so much more power when I within myself than I've ever realized, or ever been given permission to realize, and it's been quite suppressed in so many ways, and I think people are starting to realize, no, there's more to this than just the things you can physically see, right? In terms of some of the techniques that you, you don't have to go into details about that, but share some of the techniques that you have, and that you, and some of the areas maybe that you specialize on when working with clients.
Okay, so to talk about my techniques, We spoke about energy just now,
Yeah.
and energy is really an important part of the work I do, because once the client understands that we are all made of energy and vibrating, and the power of that, that's really the groundwork for them to then uh, move on to understanding the power that then they have within themselves to change their lives. So
Yeah.
energy, an understanding of energy and an understanding of quantum healing, because quantum healing has a very scientific base, and once they see that actually this isn't airy fairy, this is actually has a scientific basis, everything changes for them. And I also use neuro-linguistic programming.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then very, very important is just unpacking the subconscious mind,
Mm.
because that is 90% of our mind. And again, once people realize that our subconscious mind plays such a huge role in determining our lives, because it's 90% of our mind, and it's been programmed. It's been programmed since even before we were born, and it's running like a computer program in the background, and it filters every single thing that's coming into us, and that's stored inside of us, and that is literally creating our reality. So that then influences our lives and our reality. So that's the theory. And then, of course, I go on to do, because the crux of my program is to reprogram the subconscious mind.
Yeah.
So to do that, you have to remove all the crap first. So I have to do
Yes.
right, inner conflict therapy, to
Yeah.
remove all our inner conflicts, negative emotional therapy, negative belief therapy, and a few other techniques to remove all the crap, basically, a short way of putting it. And
Yeah.
then reprogramming it with the good stuff,
Mm.
so that then you can start learning how to achieve your goals, learning how to heal from disease, from loss. And then you asked me about the areas that I specialize in. So
Yeah.
if you go to my website, I have 5 key areas, which are anxiety and depression, and self-esteem and confidence issues, health and weight loss, and achieving goals.
Mm.
So this is what I decided to hone in on, specialize in, because I found that these are a few of the key areas that people struggle with. But what happened after I started practicing is that I started dealing with a whole variety of subjects, of issues, like relationship issues, couples therapy,
Yeah.
family therapy, family dynamics, teenagers and parents, dealing with loss, grief and dealing with loss,
Yeah.
and then healing from disease. And because I have been through that myself, I found a lot of people coming to me for that. So that's just in addition to my niche areas.
Yeah, I'm just I've got the list of Louise Hay's the symptoms list, and it's so interesting. For example, abdominal cramps and points to fear and stopping the processes. For example, anemia from yes but attitude, lack of joy, fear of life. So, and there's a list of them. And if you want to go and check that out, alchemyofhealing.com, the causes and symptoms of that. But essentially, don't you? What do you think the biggest sort of in your practice and having dealt with a lot of clients like this, specifically on these areas, what do you think the sort of theme is that we're currently experiencing? Because I mean, not to mention the big C word, but COVID in itself, has just amplified everything
Yeah.
in everyone's worlds. And so what do you think that theme is that we really need to start as humanity, as a nation, as human beings, just day to day? What is that theme that sort of comes up for you all the time?
Well, what is COVID really? It's an illness that ultimately will get to you if your immune system is low.
Yeah.
And in all the information that we fed about COVID, we taught about medication and masks and sanitizing and social distancing, but not much information about just taking care of yourself and boosting your immune system. You know, because that is at the bottom. That's the bottom line, and that's for all disease. That's for all health. It's as basic as your grocery cupboard being your medication, your medicine cabinet.
Mm.
And if people understood that, we wouldn't have to be running to the doctor all the time. So if you took care of yourself physically, and you're going to boost your immune system, But, and more important, and again, it ties up to what we were just talking about, you need to take care of yourself mentally and emotionally and even spiritually, because that also, once, if you have negative emotions like fear, for example,
Yeah.
or anger, or grief, any of these things, guilt or shame, those are like so low vibrating. They're going to literally bring down your immune system. And this whole COVID-19 pandemic, everyone started panicking, and there was so much fear around, which then brought everyone's immune systems down, which made everyone catch the disease even quicker. I mean, it's terrible, but
Yeah.
no one got that. No
Mm.
one got that. The first thing is just take care of yourself and stop panicking. I know it's not easy to say it, but that's basically the theory, you
Mm.
know. So and that I think COVID just brought that into relief so much more. But it's something we should be doing all the time. Is
Yeah.
really, besides our physical health, taking care of our emotional and mental health, and spiritual health as well. I have a firm belief in spirituality, because when you are connected to some kind of higher power, and you believe that there is something out there and you're not it, we all not it,
Yeah.
you raise your vibration. You just
Yeah.
automatically raise your vibration, and you're going to then also then uh, raise your immune system, boost your immune system, make
Mm.
yourself feel better, and that's going to bring you into peak health as well.
Absolutely.
So,
And in
so
terms of, sorry, yeah.
no, so it's just an ongoing process. It's something that you need to work on all the time. It's holistic. That's what holistic healing is about.
Mm.
It's not about just doing whatever, eating whatever, and it's suddenly you're sick and then you run to the doctor.
So, in terms of how you're doing, I mean, this is something that you've applied, and being diagnosed with cancer. Is that something you've overcome, and are you clear now, and where you're at now with that?
Yes, well, thankfully they got it very early.
Yeah.
So I was literally I was disease free after my surgery.
Fantastic.
I wasn't as brave as Louise Hay to say I'm not taking surgery and I'm going to work on myself again. I
Yeah.
wasn't anywhere near that, and I wouldn't advise that for most people because it's dangerous. But at the same time, I mean, as soon after my surgery as possible, I started working on myself, that in that process that I told you about earlier.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm very mindful now of my health. I work on it constantly and taught my children to do the same. So we do it as a family now, and this is what I'm teaching my clients as well, and it
Mm.
makes such a huge difference. And they'll come to me and they give me feedback afterwards to say, wow, I wish I knew this 20 years before. It's making such a difference in my life. So just simple
Mm.
things about choice of food, times of eating as well are so important. You're not
Yeah.
supposed to be eating all the time. You're supposed to be giving yourself these long breaks, like intermittent fasting, and
Yeah.
and exercise, and just avoiding processed foods.
Mm.
And knowing which oils to cook with. Just simple things like that just make such a difference.
And I mean, I know it's not part of our list of questions, but one of the things that I see as a theme is, and just from one coach to another, what do you think is stopping people? Because a lot of what we speak about, people go, yeah. No, I've heard that before. I know about NLP. I know about transformational coaching. I know about
Yeah.
I should emotionally look after myself. Where do you think the disconnect is from knowing information and actioning information?
Kevin, I think that's an easy answer. It's really, unfortunately, that the mainstream system, the establishment out there
Mm.
is geared towards telling you that certain foods are good. I mean, go to the supermarket and look at the shelves, and most of the stuff is not even food. It's so highly
Yes.
processed. You start
Yeah.
looking at the ingredients,
Mm.
that just to start leading an averagely healthy lifestyle, not even very healthy, you have to
Yeah.
fight.
Yeah.
It's a battle. There's so many things you can't buy from the
Yeah.
supermarket. The
Mm.
only way I can lead well, above average healthy organic lifestyle is to have my own organic supplier, because
Mm.
you can't get that healthy stuff anywhere else. And if you tell someone that actually you need to do that, and most of the food in the mainstream retail outlets is bad for you, they think you're a health freak.
Yeah.
And the reason why people can't do it is because it's such a battle. It takes so much energy to be able to lead a healthy lifestyle, because and sugar is probably one of the worst things you can put in your body.
Yeah.
3/4 of the foods in the supermarket are full of sugar. I mean,
Yeah.
even if you are trying to not have obvious sugars, half of them are hidden. You don't even know they're
Yeah,
high
exactly.
fructose
Yeah.
corn syrup, glucose syrup, this, that. I mean, cereals are desserts, and you're supposed to give that to your kids every day.
Exactly.
Something as simple as washing your fruit and veg with vinegar because they are so loaded with pesticides. How many
Yeah.
people do that? They'll think you're a health freak,
Yeah.
and yet it's
Yeah.
so important. How many people think that they are being healthy because they're having sugar-free cold drinks,
Yeah.
soft drinks?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Those are
Yeah.
those things are the worst for your health. you
Mm.
know so it's so hard. That's the bottom line. Is that the commercial our commercial food chain, our food system and our food chain, it's just been hijacked by certain interests. We know that, and it's just very, very difficult for the ordinary person to try and lead a healthy life. And actually, it's very expensive as well, because if you want to
Yeah.
try and buy organic food, it's really expensive. Okay,
Yeah.
so combine all that with most people's willpower. I mean, you look at something tasty, you want to eat it. We are so wired to eat for survival. That's still there, So
Yeah.
it's an uphill battle. You really have to work at it all the time.
Yeah. So essentially, it really boils down to the motivation. How motivated are you to want to take action in your own world? And do you have that aligned with wanting a different outcome? And if you're not motivated enough, then you probably won't, and you'll fall back into the usual habits of doing everything. But
and unfortunately, you need but it's only when people get a wake-up call like I did that you are motivated to really make that difference. And the other thing, actually, to answer your earlier question, is that our lives today are so chaotic. They are so rushed.
Yeah.
Everyone is so busy. Everyone has so much to do. It's difficult for a family to just get home and prepare dinner in time, because there isn't time in the day. So couple that with then trying to eat healthily. I mean,
Exactly.
most of the fast foods are the furthest thing from healthy eating that you can think of, and sometimes that's just what people do because they want to eat quickly.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, Raeesa, if we have to get a hold of you, where do we get a hold of you, and how do we do that?
So my website address is www.raeesamohammed. That's RAEESAMAHOMED.COZA. Then you can,
RaeesaMohammed.coza. Okay, and
yeah.
then?
And then on my website, it is a very good description and overview of me and what I do. And my contact details are all there as well. Then you can also email me on info@raeesamohammed.coza.
Okay.
And then I'm on Instagram. My handle is @Coach Raeesa.
At Coach Raeesa.
Yeah, and I have a Facebook page, again, Raeesa Mohammed. I've spelled it for you. And
yeah, so basically on
well.
all the social medias and the website, and everything that you're mentioning now, I will have that in the video description box below. But believe it or not, that's already been 30 minutes of lunchtime coaching. I wish you could, because like this is such a big conversation. We could take it out for an hour. But Raeesa, thank you so much for sharing with us. I think it's a vital conversation to be had. I think we should bring awareness to how our emotions and our subconscious really drive our health and behavior, and how that actually can change, because here we have proof of someone who's actioned that and living by it. So thank you for your time, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, Kevin. And I think it's important, and we were talking so much about how difficult it is for people to make change. I mean, we used health as one example, but once you go for coaching and you understand how it's, again, how our subconscious mind that needs to be reprogrammed, it becomes so much easier.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's that's very possible to learn new ways and new behaviors and letting go of things. It's very possible, and reframing your mind. And there's so many solutions out there.
Letting
Absolutely.
go. If we spoke about letting go, it would take another 30 minutes. You know?
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's another conversation.
But thank you for joining us, and hopefully we can chat to you soon again.
Thank you for the opportunity. I really appreciate it, and it was fascinating chatting to you. Thanks.
Awesome. Have a great
Okay.
day. I'll chat to you soon. Cheers. Bye bye.
You too. Bye-bye.